Hi, I'm Lily Perkins, and today we're going to be discussing the question of should newborn genetic testing prioritize public health benefits over the potential ethical issues? Newborn genetic testing can also be referred to as newborn screening, and it's going to be referred to that several times throughout this presentation. So first, we're going to just discuss what is newborn screening. So basically, newborn screening is testing that can be done prior to a child's birth that can provide information to the family about that child's inherited conditions, their risks, or their passed down traits. That is information that can then be used by doctors to help diagnose the children, plan treatment, or help the child's family plan for the future with those diseases or those conditions in mind. A simple heel prick and a few drops of blood from a newborn can reveal those genetic conditions that could potentially save their life. As technology advances, the big question is asked, how much information is too much and who is in charge of that decision? So, common conditions that can be diagnosed during this newborn screening are things like hypothyroidism, cystic fibrosis, and sickle cell disease. There are positive impacts of newborn screening, which is obviously why it's done. The two big ones are early detection, disease prevention, and newborn screening can enable preventative and personalized care. So, like I just said, it can allow families to detect disease risks and reveal hereditary or inherited risks for children, which can then help families improve their treatment outcomes by starting them earlier on in a child's life, and allowing them to do less invasive treatment options than maybe they would have to do later on in life. The preventative and personalized care is also a similar thing. It can give families the opportunity to have time to make lifestyle changes or changes within, their treatment or their medicine care. And it also gives families the opportunity to start using medications that will prevent or reduce the disease risk. So there are a lot of improvements in technology that have been made for newborn screening. Advancements in therapies like enzyme replacement therapy, stem cell transplantation, and gene therapy have increased the demand for newborn screening, which has then increased the demand for improvements in technology for newborn screening. One of the biggest examples of these is the Guardian study, which is a current research project going on that uses whole genome sequencing to screen newborns for over 400 genetic conditions that aren't included in regular newborn screenings. Newborn screenings generally at this stage in time usually test for around 30 to 80 disorders. And this study is basically allowing children to be tested for many more than that. And this is just an example of how newborn screening is becoming more revolutionized and helpful. However, in that, there are a lot of legal, ethical, and societal issues of this type of screening. The first one is risks of inaccuracy. Although this is a very revolutionized field, it's still a very new concept, and there are several risks of inaccuracy and exaggeration within the results of this exam. For example, genes can be linked to disorders, but very largely, and if they'll actually cause the disease or the severity of that disease. Learning the risks of these diseases can also cause significant emotional stress and damage on families for results that might not even be accurate, which then also comes in the topic of parental consent and autonomy. Tests like these are taken before a child can actually provide real consent or has full autonomy of their body, which could later in life cause them to be aware of health risks and issues that they don't necessarily want to be aware of. And there's actually a really great example for this in the article that I've cited in this presentation from the New York Times. There's a story told of a woman named Caitlin, and she was a mother of two, and she did genetic testing for a newborn that she had, and the newborn got flagged for several types of cancer. So Caitlin went out and took out a life insurance policy. She removed her uterus and ovaries. She prepared for a double mastectomy, all things that were very, they took a lot of energy out of her, obviously, and those are difficult procedures to go through. So, although she does believe that the news saved her life and maybe her child's life, she definitely has experienced a lot of emotional damage because she worries for her children constantly and she worries on how to share this information with the rest of her family. So, all of this leads back to the primary question of the public health benefits versus individual autonomy. So, obviously, there are positive and negative impacts to both of those. Just for the future, this is a very growing field. So, this is one of those things where the question is yet to be answered. For newborn screening to continue, many have just urged for there to be significant adjustments, such as establishing a higher standard, including disorders that will only seriously impact newborns in the first few weeks of life, developing more long-term approaches, and finding better paths for consent and ethical ways to inform parents. And that's all. Thank you so much.